You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey, welcome back to Cards to the Moon, and thank you for tuning in to episode 11. I'm Clark, and I'm joined as always with Hyung. But today, John is unable to make it to this recording as he's out on the beautiful west coast of Canada in Vancouver. So we invited our first ever guest host, who is also a newer member of our sports card chat group. Welcome, Will. We're glad you can fill in for John on such short notice.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller. For those of you who grew up in sports radio, you get it.
Love it. So before we throw you into the deep end of our podcast, Will, let's get your backstory on how you, like most of us, came back to the hobby. Well, I'm assuming actually you collected as a kid too. Is that right? Or
Yeah, definitely. You know, as far back as I could remember, I had cards. I remember the 1990s Donruss and Upper Deck baseball cards. I don't know how
Right.
I got them because I know my dad never bought them for me. So I think it must have been like older cousins. You know, maybe they just handed some cards down to me. But the first time I had money was when I was like 12 or 13. You know, not a lot of money, just some allowance money and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that was also like the Toronto Raptors inaugural season, so 95. So I have a bunch of 95 Fleer basketball, some hockey, Marvel cards because I loved comics growing up. So
Nice.
yeah, that's kind of when I started collecting. And then like everyone, you don't collect when you get older because you're spending money on other things or
other things.
Yeah. Trying to date girls and whatnot and all that stuff. But I got back into the hobby January of this year, like right at the end of January. Should I tell my story about that? How I got back in?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right at the height of the hobby.
Yeah. Just when the bubble was ready to burst, that's when I jumped on. I actually think I may have burst the bubble.
Damn you, Will. Damn you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I owe a lot of people a lot of money now. But you know what? Like I've known Hyung for quite a long time. And I remember a couple years back, he posted some, Instagram stuff of like different cards and stuff. And I was just like, oh, that's cool. Hyung's got this new side hustle. And I just didn't think much of it. The funny thing is, like, anytime you want to know about like what's gonna happen in the future, Hyung is like the person to reach out to. He's always got his eyes going to the next thing. And you know what? When he posted those cards, I just thought, oh, that's like kind of nostalgic and cool, but it didn't stick. And I wish to God that it did. Because, man, if I got back in 18, 19, it would have been really nice.
You might have not been married, though.
Yeah, I might not have been married, so I guess it's kind of a good thing. But I might not be married much longer if I keep collecting the way I've been collecting. So. My wife is somewhere hiding upstairs, so I don't want her hearing any of this, even when it comes out on the podcast. But yeah, so I came back in end of January this year. It was everywhere. Like the sports cards talk was everywhere. I spent a lot of time on the road, so I'm going from client to client. So I was listening to podcasts. Ringer podcast started the sports card nonsense one. And I listened to that. Their first episode was January 28th. 48 hours later, I messaged Johnny, and I go, are you in the sports cards boom? And he just responds, yup. And I was like, I wrote back, I go, you have to tell me everything now. And then he just spends like 10 minutes just writing out everything he can, like basic stuff. And by the end of that conversation, I wrote, I think I'm in a lot of trouble now. I think this is going to ruin my life. And it was from that point on, I was just like all in, and that's when John put me in our WhatsApp chat group, and ever since then it's been nothing but fun. I've enjoyed every second of the hustle and the grind and just the fun of collecting. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So that's my little
love
story.
Having you in the group.
Yeah. I injected a lot of stupidity at the beginning. Like,
it's the best. That's the best way to learn. It's
right?
the best way to learn.
It's funny because
100%.
We've had friends join after I've joined, and I hear the questions I see the questions they're asking. I'm like, what a noob. And that was just me like 2-3 months ago. So
that's funny.
No, we love having you in the group because you definitely inject. I wouldn't call it stupidity, but humor at the very least.
For sure.
One inside joke that we have within our group though is we always make fun of you with your initial budget, the budget that you set that you would spend on how much you would spend initially on cards, and what was that, and how much did you actually spend?
So my wife had permitted me to spend up to $1,000, and to examine after like 3 to 6 months time what that $1,000 investment reaped. And the first card I bought was like a $700 Louis Robert gold foil PSA 10, and John was like, wow, you popped that cherry real quick. And my wife is upstairs somewhere, and I don't want her to hear what I've spent, so I'm not gonna answer the second part of your question, Clark.
Fair enough. All right, again, welcome, Will. Thanks again for dropping in. And I know you're a long-time listener because we appreciate your comments after each episode. So you know what's next. We'll segue right into our first segment, which is Hobby Headlines. Now this week, I thought we could share some tips and or strategies on finding good card deals. You know, whether it's on eBay or Facebook groups or card shows. I know through experience, we have some advice we can give to our fellow collectors on what's worked for us. So I can start the segment off with one very general eBay strategy that most experienced collectors probably already know or should know, which is the art of sniping. So this is primarily for newer collectors, but it begins with looking at eBay auctions where you can get some of the best deals, or the ones definitely at more competitive prices. So if I'm looking for a certain card, I would screen my eBay search first under auctions instead of buy it nows or bins, and then sort by ending soonest. And if the card is available, you can see what the last bid is and how much time is remaining in the auction. Then the key is to have in mind the highest number you're willing to bid, and then wait till the final few seconds of the auction and place that bid before the auction ends. Even if your personal highest bid appears to be much higher than the last current bid, I would still put that number in, because what eBay does automatically is bids for you the next dollar up from the highest bidder up until your max limit. So in other words, if you're willing to pay $100 for a card and the last current bid is at $50, there might be someone else that's willing to bid up to $75. But eBay will bid $76 for you automatically if no one else is willing to go above $76. Then that's what you pay, not the $100 you placed as your final bid. I hope that makes sense. And you know, I've lost a lot of auctions at the beginning trying to just outbid the last current bid right before the auction ends, but not realizing other people are doing the exact same thing as me. So that's, in a nutshell, the art of sniping.
Yeah, just to add to that, Clark, for those that like to bid on, I guess, lower pop cards, one thing to add with that tip is never lose a card for like $30-$40, especially if it's something that's very rare. Right. I always say, because it might not pop up again, right, if it's low pop. So I would say overbid at times, and don't be afraid to overbid, because most of the times you're not going to really, hit your number, but at the same time, you're guaranteeing kind of like your card based on last comps, right? So I have a really high successful rate in terms of sniping cards and just overbidding on, and they might be overbid at the time, but in the long run it was underpaid, right? So at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, those two pieces of advice is like the biggest learning lessons that I had early on, because another member of our group, Roy, was like, if you really want the card, are you gonna be sad that you spent an extra $10 or $50 to get that card? And it's like, no, then spend that money. And then the max bid, like I still remember the night when somebody was like, yeah, just do max bid, and I was like, I don't know what that is. What is that? Like, I think I messaged something in the group like, I'm so sick and tired of losing all these auctions, and like I put in like a unique put a unique bid like $32.32, and I'm like, how did the next guy bid $33.32? Like, something's messed up. Like, how did he know? I waited until there was 1 second left.
Yeah, that's definitely a noob.
Yeah, you guys taught me pretty quick. Yeah, I learned that one pretty quick.
That's funny.
You know what? And conversely, like if it does go over the max bid, then you weren't willing to go over that anyways, right? So it was too rich for you.
You'll be okay with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
for sure. There's
here's
an sorry.
Oh, you go. No.
You're our guest, man.
No. You're the boss. You guys are the bosses. I'm here to listen. I've already talked too much.
Okay, I'll throw a tip for some people. This could be helpful for our American audience too, as well. Is using a third party service like a reship.com in a tax-free state, where you could do consolidated shipping, right? So if you're Canadian, it's a great service because you could ship to the US, and there's services that you pay a monthly fee. They basically show what arrives, take a picture for you. You kind of keep it all in your PO box and consolidate, and then ship it into one location, and then you could kind of claim the duties the way you want to. Or if, let's just say you're in Los Angeles and you do a lot of eBay shopping, and every time you make a purchase, let's just say from somebody in the state of Texas, you're going to be charged whatever state tax usually. But then if you get it shipped all to one spot, especially if you're bidding on like higher end cards, thousands of dollars, and meanwhile the CRA kind of flags everything right now, like they're all listening, tapping into this tax thing. But no, I think it's a great way to save some money, using a third party like a reship.com.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like when I first started, it was so hard finding. It wasn't hard finding good deals, but it was hard finding good deals that didn't charge stupid shipping prices to Canada, right? And that third party definitely lowers your cost. So great point.
Yeah, my hobby or my tip is when you're on the eBay auction, sometimes big consigners like Probstein and those kinds of guys, they'll list the same card, like multiple auctions all ending within seconds of each other. And so what I would do is open each one up in a new tab. I'd organize them by which one ends I put them in order, and then I would type in my max bid on each one but not submit the offer. And then when there's like a couple seconds left, I'd press on the tab, press max bid, press on the next tab, press max bid, and go on it and I would win every once in a while I would win something way below my max bid just because people, didn't have their eyes on it, or people's fingers weren't as quick as mine. So that's my suggestion. But it's a grind. Like hustling on eBay is just such a grind. Right. Yeah.
It definitely can be, for sure. But that's a good tip. I haven't tried that myself, but I could see how that can work. So another thing about eBay, I know I said earlier, eBay auctions are usually the way to go to find good deals, but occasionally you can find good buy it now deals or bin deals on eBay. And,
for sure.
And usually, in my experience, they're the ones that are the most newly listed, because sometimes there aren't as many comps for a certain card. So you might be able to find one that's listed by a seller who maybe doesn't value the player as much as you do, or there are some sellers who like to make a quick sale, so they undercut other sellers, right, of the same card.
Absolutely,
so you can imagine if there's like a high enough demand, that card won't last long on the market.
For sure.
Especially if the seller wants to move it. So yeah, my advice, check out newly listed cards. There might be deals there too. All right. Anyone have any other tip strategies for this segment?
Lastly, I'll throw out blowoutforums.com.
Good one.
I'll say it's the black market, or it's I guess the street market. I'm telling you, if you're looking to profit max dollars, it is not the place to go. I'll tell you that right now. It is the black market of the black market. You're not going to get full value, but you will find a lot of good deals, right? So, a lot of this stuff all requires one thing, is credibility, right? And that's one thing that's very, very important in this hobby and I think networking is important. We have platforms like Instagram and, blowout forums. You start participating on forums because you're looking for, some research, or you're researching some cards, and there's enormous amounts of information on blowout forums, right? So it's a great resource for that. And then, there's Facebook groups. You start to deal with people consistently if you're always on the forums every day, whether you're trying to buy or sell. There's always someone, selling, because everybody loves to sell, right? But there's always people buying as well, right? So I always say one man's, trash, or I guess their cash out, is the next person's treasure, right? So always be looking around, because there's deals to be had. Not eBay is not the only way that you could buy, but it takes a lot of work building that credibility. And that's why I always say to people who are new in the hobby, it's like you look at the world from a marketing perspective. Take that same concept. So it's like you need an identity, right? So you need to make deals, and people need to know. Otherwise, people don't want to deal with you, right? So it's like you start dealing with similar people constantly. People vouch for you. It's so easy to make a high-end deal because you already know who you're kind of dealing with, right? So Instagram gives you kind of that platform for that credibility to really market yourself, essentially, right? Just like a business, you're showing off your cards. Hey, somebody might be interested in that. You might be in profit. You make a trade and whatnot. And then, I think just, that whole platform of, blowout forums, Facebook groups, even third party. Now I'm going to shout out My Slabs. They're known as the 1% fee, right? I hope they bring it up to Canada. Because I think that's what a lot of Canadians are looking for as well, kind of like a market or platform that, like My Slabs, where it's super low fees, way lower to sell off My Slabs, and now they're gaining the attention and attraction from all these people. So I think just being active on social media will really, really help you, especially when you're trying to unload cards as well as buying cards.
Yeah, I agree. My Slabs would be so good up in Canada. Like, trying to sell cards in the Facebook groups, it's a slog. Or on Marketplace, like, you'll list a card that's valued at like $1,000, and someone will come into your DMs and just be like, $300, I'll pick it up tomorrow. And you're like, what? Like, no. Like, I have cash on hand. It's like, no, that's not the issue. Like, I don't have an issue with how you're paying. I have an issue that you're trying to get it at 30%.
I love it.
It's so frustrating.
That's
so
hilarious. But no, that's a great point, Chung, because like if you even see on YouTube and all those guys that are really active in social media building their credibility, that's how they get those big deals done.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, oh, $50,000 per card. Like, the hobby is insane right now, and
for sure.
And you. At first, I always wonder, like, how do you trust someone? But if they have a record of a lot of good deals already completed and people can vouch for you, then
absolutely, it's so easy.
You can always deal with that guy again and again and again.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. All good tips, guys. I hope there was a lot of value for some of the listeners out there. And maybe we'll bring this segment back again soon. So now moving on to our next segment, we're going to bring back Dead Wrong. And this is where we admit being dead wrong about anything in the hobby. Maybe it's a card we sold too early, or a card we picked up that just lost its value completely, or just some hobby trends in general we didn't believe in but proved to be super popular, and vice versa. So who wants to go first with our dead wrong segment?
I'll start.
Okay.
For me, I guess I'll say Well, there's a lot, but Vladdy was selling Vladdy early for me again. It's always paper handing, and before this whole like boom of, I guess, sports card, the hobby world, like paper was always, not always, but it was stronger than chrome because it's like flagship, right? So we had I had a lot of early like chrome Vlad autos that I mean they're big cards, and I knew they were big cards, and I kind of got paper handed and kind of took the profit really early again, and you know those cards end up going for ridiculous amounts, right? So it's again it's the same mistake as I went with Tatis, but it's all, and I always say this is because it's like, hey, if you truly trusted your original reason why you bought the card, don't ever lose sight of that. And I repeat that. It's on repeat for a reason. It's just like, do not lose sight of why you made that smart investment. And that's why we always say buy what you love, because you could never go wrong at that point, right? So that would be mine again, is paper handing on some big time numbered cards, right? So now I'm holding all my big cards. I'm not going to sell them, you know, and see where they go, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's going to be a reoccurring thing for a lot of us, selling too early or paper handing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like 1/100th of Hyung's value. Like when I first got back in, I was like, I was looking at baseball cards. I was looking at Vladdy, and I'm like, he is undervalued. And so I bought a ton of his like chrome like base cards. And I paper handed for sure, because I think I bought them for like $1.50. And then, you know, you guys would tell stories about like the Wild West days when people are like 10xing their cards. Like John Kim, like what got me convinced to jump in is John Kim was telling me about like some of his basketball investments that went like 15x. And he's like, this is crazy. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm looking for. And then you quickly realize that, oh, the market's not going to go that way. And then so I think like Vladdy, like I bought him for like 150, and then it got up to like 190, and I was like, oh my God, that's huge. Like it's like 15%, 20% increase. Like I gotta take it. And if I just held until like today, I would be 2x, 2.5x. So just a much smaller example of what Hyung did. That's what I definitely did. I should have hung on to Vladdy, especially because I love that guy. I love watching him. I think he's I should have just kept all my Vladdy stuff. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you sold, because we're all Toronto boys, so you know we have that homer.
Yeah, in my head I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep flipping Vladdies. Like I'll just keep going up and up and up. And then at a certain point it's like, oh, I can't get up to the Hyung Cho level. It's like every time he shows me his cards, I'm like, standard. You're my guru, man. Like you're also my
thanks,
vouch.
I appreciate it.
You're my vouch on everything.
I'm your vouch on Facebook.
anytime someone's like, hey, can I get a vouch for Will Choi? I'm like, yeah, Hyung Cho.
I'm like, I'm here. I got
that guy's famous.
All right. Well, do you have one or?
Oh yeah. So that, but then also, you know, I bought a lot of like I ripped a lot of wax, like Series 1, Series 2, Bowman.
Right.
I figured like, oh, if you catch one of these rookies base cards, and then you get a PSA, you gem mint, you know, it's like you spent $20 on a blaster, you spend $30 to send it to PSA, it comes back and it's worth $100 because it's, you know, it's like Cronenworth or Mountcastle or all these guys.
Right.
But then like as the months have passed, you realize base is losing steam. You know, print runs on base cards are way higher. And then PSA is closed until like 2028. So like all three of those things have like ruined my plan. So like I think like, you know, Mountcastle, Bohm, like Jazz Chisholm, like I love that guy. Like they're gonna eventually be profitable, but now it's no longer a 1-year flip. It's 10 years, or you know, when they end their careers, you know, hopefully I'll be able to pay for my children's university tuition or something like that. But you know, it's a long-term investment, so I gotta be diamond-handed, like Hyung always says.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what? Well, to be fair to you, some of those circumstances were just out of your control, right? So
No. I popped the bubble. I know I did.
it's funny you bring up the base game because that's my dead wrong example. And I would say specifically I've been dead wrong about the value of Luka Doncic Panini Prism base cards. And I know they did recently like a lot of base cards, but still the value of PSA 10s right now are still around $800 US, which is crazy to me because, you know, I see if you look at the pop report, there's nearly 18,000 PSA 10s out there.
That's insane.
Right? And at one point it was almost $2,000 a piece. Remember? Like
that is crazy.
Just a few months ago.
Right, yeah.
But I look at that supply and, you know, I'm afraid that a Prism base card of Luka could end up being devalued even further. But you know what? It's been robust. Like, I think what I failed to see before, but I'm beginning to understand now a little bit, is that there's still high demand for that card in particular. Like, it's still pretty liquid. And you know what? Like, I think the hobby is going to continue to grow, so that to me can only mean more demand for a player like Luka. You know, not for everyone, but for Luka. So you know, I was so fixed on seeing the supply side of the equation, but you had to look at the demand side as well. That's why the prices are what they are, especially for Luka Panini Prism base. So yeah, I've been constantly wrong about the value of Luka Prism base. You know, I still don't own one because I feel like, oh, any day now the bubble's gonna burst on Luka base. But yeah, I kind of feel like you will. Like the moment I buy one, it's going to crash. The value is going to start tanking. So for the sake of every Luka Prism base owner out there, I'm going to sacrifice myself and I'll probably just hold off.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But yeah, what I love about this segment is no one's going to get it right 100% of the time in the hobby. All you have to do is get more right than wrong to be successful in the hobby.
But so. That's another thing, you know, we mentioned, and Will, you said you kind of like made some mistakes early on. That's the best way to learn too, right? Like you start 100%. Learning quickly when you start understanding the game and how things work, right? It doesn't make sense that, you know, logic is key, right? You start thinking things through and, you know, critically think and say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or this, I should have did this. And you know, the dumb ones don't learn from their mistakes. They keep on repeating them, right? So it's not all bad. You know, we look back at the dead wrong segment. It's almost like a learning lesson how we could kind of move forward. And not only that, we want to also share and educate, you know, our perspective on things so that, you know, potentially we could help avoid, you know, future disasters and, you know, stuff like that. So no, I definitely like this segment, Clark.
Yeah, if I could add to that, you know, like when I first got in, I think I said January 30th, I was all in. I actually didn't buy a card until March 1st, which was that Louis Robert gold foil. I spent the full month spending 3 to 4 hours each night just researching, watching YouTube videos, bothering you guys in the WhatsApp group, listening to podcast after podcast, just learning. And it really helped mitigate a lot of the mistakes. Like I made tons of mistakes, but they were all smaller mistakes because I kind of spent that time researching and learning. But like Hyung says, the best teacher is failure. So I failed a ton and learned a bunch. And yeah, I mean, I'm still here, so I'm still collecting, so it must not have been too bad.
You're still married, so...
Yeah, I'm still married right now until the podcast airs, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all great points, and that's definitely key for the Dead Wrong segment. Just learn from it and go from there. And don't dwell on it too much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's better to forget your losses, yeah. Just kind of or not forget them, but don't hold them forever, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. All right, that was fun. So we're steamrolling along this episode, and we'll end off this episode with pick one. For those who are new to the podcast, listening for the first time, our pick one segment is where we each choose 2 players or 2 cards or 2 sets, and we pit them against each other, and then we all debate on what we would rather invest in out of the 2 choices. All right, so I can go first this time for this round. And my pick one is between 2 cards that both have great value despite being produced in the junk wax era. Okay, so, you know, that's the time when we all collected as kids, all 3 of us here anyway. And the two cards I'm going to pit against each other are Ken Griffey Jr.'s 1989 Upper Deck rookie card, PSA 10, iconic, right? Versus Derek Jeter's 1993 SP foil rookie card, BGS 9 though. And the reason why I chose the Beckett graded mint condition, the price comps are pretty similar, around $3K. All right, so just to give you a brief background too, the Griffey card is iconic because it's the birth of Upper Deck baseball, and Griffey Jr. was the number one card, right? And to give you some context, there was over 80,000 graded by PSA today.
Wow.
You know,
Jeez
that's
Louise.
junk wax era for you. Yeah, but less than 4,000 are graded at PSA 10, and like I said, current market value is about $3K right now. If you look at Jeter's SP foil rookie card, it's another iconic card, in my opinion, featuring a Yankees player, right, which is also hot in the market. But the card is super tough to get a gem mint grade because of its foil. Like there's a lot of whitening in the corners, and that's why, you know, the cards that do gem are worth at least 5 figures. Like it's worth a ton. So, but if you look at the BGS 9 mint condition, it's definitely more affordable at $3K, and there's about 3,000 graded at that level, at the BGS 9 level. So I'm wondering, for you guys, if the grading bugs any of you at all, and if that factors into your decision, or if you're going with the less printed set, which is definitely the SP foil in this case.
This is a tough one. I literally went back and forth every time because I will tell you, I'm owner of both. Okay, and
Oh,
I
wow,
was
okay.
sorry, I was an owner of both. Took profit. So 89 Upper Deck is like what I grew up on. Like that is like one of the most iconic things, right? So PSA 10, like you said, it's for Ken Griffey Jr., one of the greatest of all times. It's not much, right? So you have that working for you. On the flip side, the grading is very important, and this is what doesn't make sense to me, and this is where I'm going to justify the BGS 9, depending on the subgrades. I'm going to go with the Derek Jeter on the higher, subgrades. If we're talking 9.5s and 9s, like a true BGS 9, I think the price between a BGS 9.5 true, or like a gem, and a BGS 9 is so substantial, and there's actually zero difference. It's the same card essentially. It's basically an opinion, right? So on that side, if we're talking a higher value BGS 9, I'm going with that because that card is so sensitive in terms of its condition. I mean, you see it. The reason why, the PSA 10 sold for so much, even PSA 9s, they go for, I think it's like 240 or something low, or 400 or whatever it is. It's very low for a Hall of Famer regardless, right? So I'm going to go personally with the Derek Jeter on the higher side, the BGS 9. But then on the flip side, if we're just talking about, the poor man's BGS 9, I got to go with the Griffey Upper Deck 10. So I had to, even it out. I was an owner of both with the high sub BGS. I had a 9.5, 9 and 9. So it was 0.5 away. But what I couldn't get over was there was such a big price difference for that 0.5. And for me, that's kind of like the factor. I think long term, that BGS 9 with that's 0.5 away is a huge card. That's going to grow a lot bigger than the Ken Griffey Jr. So that's my final answer, if that makes sense. A lot of asterisks. Yeah.
Let me share my take, because it's way less detailed and way less informed than Hyung's. Mine is purely like, if they're both valued around the same, I like Jeter is Jeter, but he's still a Yankee. So, my AL East roots, I can't really own. Like, I didn't buy any Aaron Judge stuff, any Glaber stuff when I got back into the hobby. But like Hyung says, that upper deck is so iconic. Actually, when I got back into the hobby, I was looking for upper deck baseball cards, and I was really sad to find out that they didn't exist anymore. Just because I love the look of those cards, and I love Ken Griffey's swing. It's got to be the prettiest swing of all time. So I'm purely beautiful. It's less about the card and it's more about the player for me. So Ken Griffey 100%.
All right, that's I can't argue with any of those choices. And for me too, I was kind of going back and forth, and I'm definitely more nostalgic with the Ken Griffey, just like you guys, especially the upper deck set. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. Well, when I first got back into the hobby around 4 or 5 years ago now, one of the first cards I bought was a Ken Griffey PSA 9 for $50-$60. And back then I'm like, $50-$60 for a card, man. I used to buy packs for $2, you know. And so it seemed insane, but you know, like, it's nostalgia, and I'm like, I have a job now. I can pay for that. And the PSA 10 was worth $300 at the time, so I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna get a PSA 10. I just want a Griffey Jr. Yeah. So long story short, I actually sold the PSA 9 as well, and made like a
profit.
I made a good,
for profit.
Yeah, for profit, and it was a good 5-6x return. I'm like, wow. This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Just take it.
I don't even like looking at the prices now, because like if I had sold it now, it's just super ridiculous, like double-digit figure profit. That's crazy. So anyway, I guess back to the two cards. I am going to choose Derek Jeter as well. Like,
really? Wow.
Yeah, I think it's more pure. The card is more pure for me. Like, I think if you look at the research of how the upper deck Ken Griffey Jr. came to be, I think that's been photoshopped, right? Like the logo, because he didn't play for the Mariners at the time when they took the photo. And I don't know, I like to go for the more pure card in my opinion. And the foil background, just I like the look. Maybe that was like a precursor for the chrome cards these days, right? And yeah, the value of it is, I like your point, Hyung. If you look at the difference between a highly graded BGS 9 mint compared to a 9.5, it's so minuscule, but the condition looks just the same. Right. And if I'm gonna have it for my PC, I'd rather own that card. Right. But yeah, I'm going with Derek Jeter.
You know what's funny? When every time I listen to you guys on the podcast, there's so many times in this segment where the three of you just agree. You're like, it's a clean sweep. We all like Tatis more or whatever, right? And I thought to myself, oh man, when I jump on this podcast, if both of you guys agree and I disagree, that's great news for everyone listening. It's like, oh shoot, we gotta listen to Hyung and Clark. it's like more definitive. Like, oh shoot, we gotta listen to the experts. They know what they're talking about.
No, not at all. But that's the beauty of the hobby, right? It's collect what you love, right? Because there's perspectives on both sides. You can't be wrong on this. That's the love of it, right? So.
I appreciate 100%. That. I appreciate that. I still feel very wrong, but yeah, let's continue.
All right, let's continue. Who wants to go next?
I'll throw out a pair here, and
no. You gotta do yours last, Hyung. Yours is like the quintessential debate, you said. So let me throw mine in and then finish strong with yours.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because mine is useless. Or no, mine's not useless, but mine's not as special.
This could be a lot to think about, actually.
No, yours has like history written throughout it and all this kind of stuff.
Okay, what is yours?
Okay. Yeah, so mine isn't so much like player versus player, because I just don't have the same like base of knowledge that you guys do about like this card and this player and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to pick insert versus insert, and not even a player, like a specific player, but like a genre or like a theme. And I want to pick the polar opposites of each other. So my pick one is Color Blast versus Blank Slate. So Color Blast is usually like this white card background, and then there's this rainbow gradient of smoke behind the player, and then Blank Slate is just a white background and then the player in front of it. Actually, both of these styles of cards or these inserts were introduced to me by Johnny. He was like, "Have you seen Color Blast?" I'm like, "No,
He's a
what is
huge
that?"
Color Blast.
And
Johnny's
then I
gonna be so
saw it.
upset. He's not on here.
I know, right? He's gonna put it in the
I
comments.
know his answer. Yeah, I know his answer.
But then he also put me on the Blank Slate. He's like, "Have you seen Blank Slate?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, this card is amazing!" So
It's pretty sweet
both are case hits. Both are like I couldn't find print run or anything like that, but I think it's like 30 cards. I don't know, Hyung, you may know details a little bit.
I don't
more
know
than I do.
yeah, they're all different.
But it's like super low.
Yeah, case hits maybe. I know the like Color Blast Prisms like 1 in 10 cases.
Yeah,
like it's something ridiculous like that.
Crazy
For the Prism football.
And in case anyone listening doesn't know which cards these are, just pull over or just Google search it right now, like I did with last week's podcast when Hyung mentioned about the C3PO card.
Oh yeah. It's incredible, right?
I had to erase my search history after that one.
That's good.
Yeah. So what do you guys think?
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll go. Oh man, this was tough because I agree. Both are amazing. But I'm gonna go with Color Blast. Like Color Blast is one of the most beautiful cards in hand. Like especially in a PSA slab. I'll say it belongs in a PSA slab unless you have a BGS 10, right? At that point, but definitely a PSA slab. I like that. It varies by set where I guess Blank Slate is Court Kings exclusive.
They have a Diamond Kings too.
Oh, they have a Diamond Kings? Yeah. That kind of line, that same line, right?
Yeah.
But no, I do like the Blank Slates. I think they have, great upside as well. One of the knocks on Blank Slate too is like I don't know why they don't put the Rookie Shield logos on them.
Yeah.
Like I know like LaMelo's.
Interesting.
Yeah, like for me that's like like it's just that small little detail. But yeah, Color Blast for me is just such a beautiful iconic card. They're crazy SSP case hits, and I think upside they're going to continue to draw a lot of attention. A lot of people are in that market, and even though they're inserts, I think they're going to do well in the long run as well, just because they're so short printed, right? So yeah, that was a good one, Will. I'm going to go Color Blast.
Yeah, this is going to be boring because I'm going to go Color Blast as well, but I love the look of Blank Slate too. I just recently learned about Blank Slate as well, fairly recently, because other collectors like online and in social media are chatting it up. Like it's catching momentum in terms of people really wanting to add Blank Slate cards to their PC. So I looked it up, and generally speaking too, the one thing I do like about Blank Slate, of course it depends on the card, but it's generally cheaper than a lot of Color Blasts, because Color Blasts it can really get up there in price for superstar players. So that's one thing. But to a similar point as Hyung, like Color Blast just looks beautiful, like, and for me has a little bit more history, and honestly I think it's in the realm of artwork at that point for me. Like just to collect it and just to show it off, Color Blasts are amazing. So I think at the end of the day it might be just personal preference in terms of the look, and because they're both case hits like you mentioned, so that's kind of a wash. But yeah, I'm gonna go Color Blast as well.
Like you hit on a couple of things that I was thinking about the cards, like Blank Slate, like it's not as valued right now, right? Like people are starting to talk about it, and like even when I do eBay searches, like the price on them's lower. So my thinking is like, oh, there's room in the market for this, right? Like everyone already knows Color Blast. Like, you're trying to get a Color Blast card, it's like $5,000, but you can get some of these.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. Blank Slate. I just like how like that minimalist look, and how how you're saying like it just like Color Blast fits in a PSA slab. I was thinking, man, Blank Slate in like a SGC slab where it's just black and white. That would look pretty nice. But Oh man, I did what I didn't want to do. I'm agreeing with you guys, so we're all
Yeah.
we're all in the color
I was
blast.
like, yeah, okay,
It's so sweet.
But in the end, color
Yeah,
blast
dude,
is
this is
so
what we're
beautiful.
talking
Like it's like you said,
Yeah.
it's art. Like it is pure art. I love looking at those cards.
Yeah. But you made a good point too. Like if you look at it from an investment standpoint, there might be better opportunity
opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
to get your
That's
money.
I guess
money
that
back
would be
from blank slate.
the flip side, the
counter.
argument side. Yeah, the counter argument. That's what I would say. Yeah, is the value you
Yep.
have with blank slate currently, right? So
Yeah. Nice try, blank slate. Nice try.
hey, you never know. We bring this up a year later and it totally changes, eh? The
Yeah.
market.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's true. All right, Hyung, let's wrap it
I'm
up.
excited.
All right, so I don't know why we're excited, but I'm gonna. Everybody knows that I'm a huge Acuna fan, and for us Acuna collectors, I know there's a bunch out there. It's like, what's your favorite Acuna rookie card? And for me, it changed every year, and it was between the two cards that I don't have of Acuna now, ironically. It's the 2018 Topps Chrome Sapphire rookie card, Acuna, bat down, the 698, I think, and then versus the 2018 Topps Update US 250 SSP white jersey, like the vertical. There's a horizontal and then there's a vertical SSP, which is his white jersey batting, which is such a nostalgic card. Like if you look at it, it has that nostalgic feel of just old school, classic. It's paper, so super condition sensitive. And then on the flip side, you got Acuna's bat down image, which we talked about briefly in a previous episode, that there's no parallels, right? There's no variations, or not. I shouldn't say variations because that's the wrong term, but parallels where it's an Independence Day or anything like that. And Topps Chrome Sapphire, they basically that 698 was Acuna's only technically parallel, right? So there's a short print run of about 250 to 300, I think. There's about 100 PSA 10s, maybe a little less for the Sapphire, and then the print run on the SSP white jersey update is about 300 as well. So they're right around the same ballpark. Price wise, they're pretty much equal. But I go every year, it goes back and forth for me. I think the Acuna Sapphire is one of the best looking cards ever, like just period. And then you got like the white jersey as just a crazy OG, old school, Acuna, rare Acuna rookie, right? So I'll leave it at that and let you guys kind of pick at it.
Well, you want to go first, or?
Yeah. So for me, like I told Hyung earlier, like my answer is gonna be so useless in this one because I went like a preteen girl going shopping. It's like, which one looks prettier? That's the only deciding factor. Like I didn't look into any of the pop number, like any of that stuff, and I was just like, like when I look at it on screen, the SSP, the white jersey, it just looks so clean. Like I love that card. It looks so good. But then I realized just now while you were talking, you said that the Sapphire is like the prettiest card that you've ever had, like that you've ever seen. But I just realized I've never seen a Sapphire card in like in real life. Like I've never held a Sapphire card.
Yeah.
So because of that, I can't make that proper assessment of like I don't see what you're seeing, right? Because like just on eBay or like on my computer screen, to me the white jersey stands out way more. So I'll go white jersey, but I can be easily convinced otherwise.
I like it.
Just tell me what to like, okay, Hyung and Clark? Just tell me what to like. You guys told me to buy Keston Hura, and I bought Keston Hura. Okay? I don't even regret it.
I was selling when you were buying.
I probably bought your auctions.
Hey, we already went through the dead wrong segment, so let's move on. You know what? That's a legitimate reason, though. The reason of just looking at what subjectively looks better to you, or prettier to you, right? So it's funny you say that about the white jersey. No, I agree. It's iconic for me. But I just like the sapphire. I'm partial to the sapphire set and the chrome card. At the end of the day, that's prettier to me. So I'm going with the sapphire because it's I don't know. It just sticks out to me more than the white jersey. But I didn't know the extensive history behind the two cards. Like for hardcore collectors of Acuna, it's just kind of a divided opinion, right?
Oh yeah, it's literally 50-50. I did polls on my Instagram. It's literally 50-50 every time. It's like 51-49 one way. I do it again. It's 51-49 the other way. Yeah, but a crazy story is, before the hobby boom, I was actually, rolling the dice a lot, finding at the time 2018 Topps Update hobby boxes were still around. You could find them. And at that time, $350 for a hobby box was insane, right?
Right.
And believe it or not, I actually pulled the SSP white jersey horizontal out of a hobby box, which was a big hit with Acuna, and then I pulled a vertical white jersey SSP as well. Wow. So for me, like pulling a card like that is ultimately the only reason why I'm gonna go with the white jersey SSP, is because I've pulled it and that's the only reason why I was going for it, because it was such a desired card. Even, before the whole, hobby hype or the last couple years, everybody was after that white jersey, but you couldn't find one, right? You couldn't find one for sale because, you had true collectors that truly loved their cards. And what happened was, as the hobby boomed, it's like these true collectors were it's tough not to hold or to hold at that point, right? Because you're reaching new levels of records, right? So it's sad in one sense that all those big cards like the SSP white jerseys kind of went to kind of like investors or whatnot. And I'm sure true collectors still have their share, but yeah, I got to pull. I pulled the SSP white jersey, and it unfortunately had a bad corner. So I sent it to BGS, and it 9.5 all the way minus the corners. It's 7.5. Ended up getting an 8, which was unfortunate. But I also bought a Acuna Sapphire Raw, right? When nobody was kind of like zeroing on it before it kind of got big, before I did my homework, and that ended up PSA 10ing. So I have both kind of background stories on those cards, and that's why I kind of go back and forth. Last year it was the Sapphire, this year's the white jersey for me. But I'd be interested to see, like I say, next year we're going to have this conversation again. It's going to probably be, flip-flop, but it'd be interesting to see. I'd love our, listeners to, do some research and, let us know as well what they think about this debate, because it's literally 50-50, everywhere you go. The law.
I think it's easy. It's easy to flip-flop, Hyung, when you have both cards in your back pocket. Like you're literally just looking at both of them and be like, I love you more today.
Well,
I love you
it's one
more
of those
today.
things. Which one would you sell if you had to sell one, right? And that's where a lot of collectors, or a lot of I guess people, are stuck with real situations like that. It's like, I need to cash out on one. Which one would it be, right? So it's like, that's always one of the if you're a true Acuna collector, those are probably two of the top cards that you're going after as an Acuna collector, right? So and there's only so many, right? So
are they valued similarly?
Yeah, they're very, very similar. I actually sold one to Phil Hughes before the shutdown in COVID in early 2020. He had my other one. I had two.
Which one? The Sapphire?
Sapphire, yeah. So I had two white jerseys and two Sapphires, and I actually that was the one I flew out to LA because that year some guy was just like, he was letting it go a PSA 10 for dirt cheap, and I was like, I'm flying over to LA.
Wow.
You know, I literally went Toronto to LA, picked up the card, and then you know, literally flipped it to Phil Hughes, you know, 28 days later, right? So but that was when the market was kind of crazy. But yeah, I've interesting travel stories too. Before all this shutdown, it was crazy. But yeah, bringing back like card shows and nationals. This is what we need. This is why we kind of you know, we need that push now, because before the hobby kind of exploded, it was fun, man. It was like such a great experience meeting new people and stuff like that. But now that the hobby is so big now, it's like it'd be great to kind of see it at live at shows now, especially up north here. We've been shut down so long, so
I can't wait for shows, because like people are gonna come and be like, you know, talking to you guys because you're famous. And for anyone who goes and talks to them, just look for the guy who's holding the iPhone recording everything, or is holding the camera. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna be in the background just like yeah.
That's good.
I don't think we're there yet, but we're working on it. But maybe that's a good place to wrap up this episode. Will, thanks again for being our guest host.
Thank you. It's been nothing but fun.
Awesome. I've
enjoyed every second of this. Yeah. Oh, I gotta say my John Kim line. For sure, 100%. Wait, deeper. For sure, 100%. 100%.
There you go.
For sure.
That's right on. That's right on.
All right, thanks guys.
Yeah, and of course, thanks again to all our listeners. We appreciate you subscribing to our podcast, and yeah, we can't wait to be with you guys next week. Take care, guys. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.